on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
Dental hygienists, they're loyal to the industry. They care about what they do. They care about preserving patient care, but they want more autonomy. They want more respect. They want to feel valued. And it's just interesting to see the consistency in that and the genuineness of just seeking for better quality of life and a better world for everyone, to be honest. There's not a lot of financial incentives and there's limited benefits when you look at PTO and insurance. Those were a little startling for me as someone who lives in the corporate world where healthcare is kind of a given. I was really surprised to see how rare health benefits are for the dental hygienist.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 509. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for being with us today. We have a great episode. My guest today is Thalia Diedrick, and Thalia has a really fun job. Among all of the other things that she does, she gets to do some market analysis for the dental profession. So some of the things we talk a lot about in offline that we brought to this episode is if there really is a shortage or people leaving the profession in droves, because that's what you keep hearing. There's just not enough hygienists. And if there are, everyone's going to be retiring really soon. And so they looked at some of those data points, and we talk about some of that. But then we also talk about what keeps the hygienists in the profession. What does pay look like? And is everyone happy with the pay? Are they happy with the benefits? What are the things, what are the drivers that are leading to job satisfaction? And when we look at all that data, we can make inferences of, hey, this is where we're probably headed. And is this a good profession to kind of still be a part of? I think anecdotally, because, offline we do have these conversations with each other. I think that we know what a lot of these answers and responses are going to be. I think I was surprised by some of the demographic information. I thought that maybe certain age groups would have surveyed a little bit different. And so that was really fun. But it's for that reason that we need this research. And so a huge shout out to GoTo. And to be clear, GoTo is not sponsoring this episode, but I wanted to give them several shout outs here and then also later in the episode, because they're the ones that are putting in all of this work, and they probably really don't have to. They choose to. And it's these kinds of research projects that are going to help all of us see the bigger picture. And when we see the bigger picture, we can work on solutions and ultimately move the needle in a way that we need this profession to be moved forward to. So thank you again to GoTo for all of that. That is all from me. Enjoy this interview with Thalia.
A tale of two hygienists.
Listeners, welcome into the interview portion of the podcast, joined today by Thalia. Thalia, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
How many podcasts have you done before?
This, I believe, would be my second as a guest, but many moons ago in a previous life, I had a small podcast that had a very, very tiny following, but nothing similar to this. So I recorded those as a host, so a little skewed that way, but third as a guest.
Okay. Oh, well, first of all, it's a lot more fun to be the guest, I think, because there's less thinking of responsibilities and stuff. You just answer questions. But then second, we expect you to be absolutely professional on this. Then you're going to be the best guest we've ever had because you are basically a pro. So here we go. Thalia, let's let the listeners learn a little bit more about you first before we get into this really cool topic that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Thalia Diedrick. I'm the VP of marketing at GoTo. GoTo is one of the largest staffing platforms across the country. I joined GoTo actually as a marketing operations manager, just a little IC, and I've been able to grow with it the last 2 years into the seat of VP, and it's been an amazing journey for me personally.
It's got to be fun though too, because we had Ed and Carrie on. They're a dynamic duo, first of all. Listeners, if you don't remember, if you haven't heard those episodes that we've had, just do a quick search in your podcatcher, you should be able to find it, but they are so much fun, they're so energetic, they're so innovative, right? The space where I think that sometimes, like, especially dental professionals were like, "Oh, quote, unquote, 'temp agencies,' how much fun could that possibly be?" Like, I'm like, "I would love to go work at you guys' freaking headquarters. That sounds like a good time, no?"
No, we have a ton of fun. Right now, we're actually doing a step competition, which our team has treated like actual war. I've been
Yes.
doing 30,000 steps a day for the last 10 days. Amaya, one of the other talented marketers on our team, has blisters on her feet that I am very concerned about. I'm thinking, I think you need to get out of this competition, but we've literally been treating it like war. The whole floor is super into it. It's really funny. Something a little bit crazy about us, if you wanna know how intense our culture gets, is the 3 of us have matching tattoos.
That's awesome. No, that see, here's the thing about that, though. So workplace culture, we talk a lot about that in the dental practices and things like that. It's so if you want a staff that's gonna, basically kick butt and take names, like, you need to have someone that's bought in. That's more than I would have ever asked my employees to do or appreciate that my employees did for us, but good for you guys for having some of that solidarity. But, the thing is, like, and I know this from, the past episodes and stuff, like, it's fun, cool, that's always great. But when there's not the work, though, that goes in behind it, then that doesn't always translate, right? And so, tell me about some of the projects and stuff that you guys have worked on in the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, State of Work has been a major initiative for our team specifically. It's a large market research project that we do. I have it's my baby, to be honest. It's one of my first initiatives here when I joined the team, and it's grown alongside our team as well. I grew up low income to a single mom, and it's always been very, very important to me as a professional to work at a company that aligns with my personal values and that makes me feel like I'm helping the world and making a positive impact. So, one of the cool parts, and I actually had a conflicting offer when I considered joining GoTo. One of the big reasons why I chose GoTo was because they told me the millions and millions of dollars that they were paying out to dental hygienists every year, and how dental hygienists were a primarily female demographic who a ton of them were breadwinners of their family or had a major contribution to their family's income, and it resonated with me. My mom was, a vocational, and, she was in a vocation specifically, and being able to have that flexibility and that autonomy compared to working at, you know, a Target or a retailer or
Mhm.
something similar, that allowed her the flexibility that she needed to show up for me and be more present in my life. So one of the big initiatives that we've done, State of Work, why it was really important to me is because I wanted to create a platform for dental professionals to share their thoughts and feelings and have a place to literally ask for what they wanted out of the industry. It started out pretty modest. Our first year, we got about 750 responses, and that grew tremendously. Last year, we got over 3,000 responses for the entire survey
Wow.
and over 2,000 from hygienists alone, and it's been pretty amazing to see the patterns. Dental hygienists, they're loyal to the industry. They care about what they do, they care about preserving patient care, but they want more autonomy, they want more respect, they wanna feel valued, and it's just interesting to see the consistency in that and the genuineness of just seeking for better quality of life and a better world for everyone, to be honest.
Hygienists are pretty darn altruistic when it comes down to it. I think that's why a lot of us picked the profession that we're in. I know we're gonna kind of explore some of these topics that you guys did, but before we get into that, I kinda wanna talk about the construct of the survey itself. So, how many questions was it? What kind of questions were being asked? Was it yes, no questions? Was it open field question? Like, how did that part work before we start getting into some of these specific questions?
Yeah, of course. So just for some history, my bread and butter is in marketing operations and demand generation. I'm not like a formal market researcher. We don't have a formal market researcher on staff. So when we started doing the research for this, we were thinking, what would be the easiest way to get this information from dental hygienists and a dental this last year we did dental assistants as well, without making it like I'm not filling this out. When I remember a couple years ago, I someone was like, "Hey, will you fill out the survey for me? I really need one last person. You get compensated for it." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." I got caught up watching Boss Baby clips for hours, and then they handed me $2, and I was like so my main concern was I don't want this to feel like a crazy big task, but I wanna get the information that we need to move forward in making steps for GoTo to improve their quality of life. So, we built the survey in type form. There's, a little over 40 there was a little over 40 questions in the initial survey with some conditional questions, so not everyone got asked the same questions depending on what they answered in previous questions. And pretty straightforward. We asked open-ended questions, multi-select, yes, no, ranking, pretty standard survey that you would see anywhere else. Some fun stuff that we did is everyone who filled out the survey, we sent out a digital planner, and then we did a sweepstake giveaway as just a thank you to everyone who responded.
I'm curious because, I'm sure one of the questions you asked was, like, kinda like forecasting, outlooking, kinda like, what is the profession gonna look like in the future? Because I feel like in a lot of the social media forums and stuff, and maybe some even offline conversations, I think there's almost like a scare tactic that's being kinda generated where it's like, "Hey, this profession's going down, we don't have enough, employees, and they're all gonna be leaving because they're all unsatisfied," and all these types of things. Can you confirm if that's true? Like, what's the outlook, like, the career outlook looking like based on those responses?
What's interesting actually is in this last year, 79% of hygienists still expect to stay in the industry and in the field for the next 10 years. That's a pretty overwhelming majority. And that kind of goes to my last point, talking about there is an intense loyalty to the industry, to their career, but also to preserving patient care. There's just a frustration that exists in some variables of the industry and some variables of the way that dental hygiene is moving that the professionals are looking for change.
How much of the, I guess, 21% or whatever the number was, I can't, I'm sorry, I'm bad at math. I just are not good at the maths, okay? But how much of that is maybe due to retirement as opposed to I'm unsatisfied with the job? Do we have that data, or is that still to be determined?
So what was interesting is we hadn't considered that in this last year. It was one of the major fill-in answers that we received, and it was funny because people were like, "Because I'll be retired in 10 years," and I was like, "You know what? You're absolutely right, and I'm stupid for not including that." Um,
No, 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 it's easy to overlook. But I guess that was kinda my thing. It was like, that's a difference between unhappiness or career dissatisfaction versus like, okay, I've fulfilled my lifelong,
yeah,
profession. So, um, you'd mentioned that burnout was a huge theme kinda throughout some of the responses, and even for RDH Under One Roof, they submit a bunch of abstracts and things like that, and I'd heard that a lot of the courses were about burnout as well,
yeah.
and some of the anxiety and, like, everything related to all of this. What what was the feedback, though, from the hygienists as far as that go? Is that it what are they experiencing right now?
So what's interesting is that cohort of that 21%, their first commonly cited reason for why they weren't planning on staying in the industry was physical demand, and second was burnout. To me, I think physical demand is a facet of burnout. It's essentially that, your body, due to the physical demand of the job, has just gone too far and you've burnt out on it physically. I think that that is a huge component of it. I know that there's been a lot of discourse around ergonomics and different ways to preserve, but like sustainability when it comes to the physical body, but also the mental when you consider patient load and other factors that increase stress and workload overall for a hygienist. Those were some pretty consistent themes. I think that there's two sides of it. There's the physical side and then there's the mental side. I guess actually 3 sides, because then there's also the culture side. A lot of hygienists cited when talking about burnout specifically in our fill-in questions, feeling undervalued or not respected by not only their dentist, but also by the industry as a whole. That kind of their growth and scope and abilities and capacity for what they can do in their practice was stagnated, and it wasn't
Mhm.
growing appropriately compared to other fields.
Okay, so I wanna talk about burnout for just another quick second before we move on because, it it this is not gonna come out right, and you know what? It's fine. I'm leaving the podcast here in a couple months. No one's gonna hold this against me. I feel like all the old people are always saying burnout is the new buzzword of the last 5 years, and it's all the young people coming out of school, and they just can't hack it. They didn't go through what we went through, like, we're so much tougher and, our mental fortitude is this and that, whatever. Did you guys collect any data that has to do with either demographic, like the age groups or maybe other factors that might be, pertinent to this?
Yeah, so what's actually interesting about that is when you look at the cohort that is experiencing or was at the time of the survey experiencing burnout, there's 2 cohorts that are the smallest. The first one is 65 and older, which follows your earlier sentiment, but the second one is actually in the early 20s group. So the real larger cohort is 25 to 54, specifically with number 1 being 35 to 44. So right in the middle of the road is where people are experiencing the most amount of burnout. And I'm sure there's nuances there with when you're later on in your career, you might end up feeling like you're seeing the home stretch and not really subject to that burnout. But similarly, when you're earlier in your career, you might not really be feeling those feelings quite yet. So it kind of gives us more insight into the true at risk population when it comes to people maybe leaving the field earlier. And it's that in the middle group, that people who don't really see the end in sight quite yet, but have been around for a while.
I've just been doing the same slog day in and day out for 2 decades now. Well, and that is true, like, the new grads, like, they don't know what they're getting themselves into yet, so, like, they don't count yet. It's fine. Just kidding, new grads. We love you on A Tale of Two Jonas. Please continue to listen. Alright. I do wanna talk about probably the thing that I don't wanna say it's the most popular thing, but everyone wants to talk about money. Everyone talks about pay and benefits. I was just on a call this last weekend, and they were asking me about some DSO stuff. I work in the DSO space quite a bit, and they're saying, "Hey, what's the number one benefit for working in DSO?" Like, everyone just wants to talk about, like, the good stuff. But the contrast of that is seemingly every single state has been underpaid for several decades.
Yeah.
I would assume now that that has somewhat shifted as the monies have gone higher, the salaries have gone higher. What did you guys end up finding out for, like, pay, raises, benefits, all that kinda stuff?
For us, pay was a mixed bag, honestly. So on average,
Okay.
most rated their salary satisfaction or their income satisfaction at a 3.3 out of 5, with nearly a quarter of them saying 2 or below, which means a large chunk of them feel explicitly underpaid. And I think that has a lot to do, and this is me kind of reading in between the lines a bit, but that has a lot to do with what perhaps the dental industry as a whole sees as the value of the work of a dental hygienist versus what is the true value, but not only that, but what their actual workload is. What's the perception of the workload versus what's reality, I feel like is disjointed because I'm seeing a ton of that in our open responses where hygienists are being expected to see patients quicker, to do more, and to perform even better than they were already performing, but at the same or even the more limited pay, depending on the situations, given that one of the other interesting data points was that a significant amount of survey respondents hadn't received a pay raise in the last 24 months, and something like 33% received a bonus. there's not a lot of financial incentives and there's limited benefits when you look at PTO and insurance. Those were a little startling for me as someone who lives in the corporate world where healthcare is kind of a given. I was really surprised to see how rare health benefits are for the dental hygiene community.
It's super rare, and I think again, it's getting better and better, and this is the kind of zooming out perspective piece of all of this is like, yeah, okay, really, if you talk to the experienced people, they never had those options, and now with the competition that's coming in a lot of these, for sure, major cities, but also kind of some of the rural areas as well, it's almost like it's if you wanna be able to find a hygienist, you have to have some sort of a benefit package or that people that hygienist gonna go. It's sad to hear though that what do you say, just 24 months or so that people hadn't gotten a raise, like 2 years or so. I mean, this is just anecdotal, and I'm sorry not to stumble over you guys' actual real research, but my anecdotal stuff is it almost seems like you have to threaten to quit before you get a raise, and that is unbelievable for me. It's sad, or you have to go somewhere else to get that raise, like, just flat out go somewhere else. That's sad.
It's like it's around 44% ha of respondents hadn't received a raise in the last 2 years, and I think your sentiment is correct. I think that this is something that I've heard from, leaders at other dental companies, but dentists and practice owners, they want to do especially at private practices, right? They wanna be a dentist. They don't necessarily wanna be a business owner, and
For
I
sure.
think that that brings in a nuance of what does it look like for your company culture or your office culture? What does that look like for your retention strategy to reduce your attrition? What does that look like for the HR facet of your practice? These are things that aren't, the big evil parts of businesses. They're the important parts that have a lot of nuance and have a lot of impact and benefit, and there's a reason why they exist outside of the dental space more so than perhaps other places, but I think that that's a huge part of it, like, at a company, a marketing coordinator since we're in marketing, right? A marketing
Mhm.
coordinator probably has a progression path, and they probably have a growth plan where every year
Yeah.
they're being analyzed and they're being considered for, a cost of living increase into their wage, and then perhaps, like, a merit-based promotion or a merit-based increase in salary. Some of those practices are really missing in the smaller offices.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just that hasn't how dentistry has ever been, and so getting people to change kind of a systemic issue has been way too slow, and kind of on the flip side, we talk about the big evil in dentistry is really the insurance companies, and
Yep.
they're not paying out more, and so it's like, it is just a complete nightmare, and so I do feel for the practice owners who are like, "I can't afford to do the things that you need me to do," and haven't been able to find the ways around it. And that's I feel I just feel bad for everybody. But it's really funny that you think that there are HR departments in dentistry. That just doesn't exist. Um,
I was
okay.
being a little facetious, like, in the sense of, like, why wouldn't a small practice or even a multi-location practice have an HR department? They probably have their office manager who kinda goes to bat for the hygienist with the practice owner. I think there's nuances there that I'm not exactly 100% privy to, but that I think make it a lot more complicated and nuanced for things as basic as, like, getting, uh, time off and,
Yeah.
uh, being able to come in late because you have, your son's AB honor roll ceremony, certain things like that.
Yeah. I have a story I'll tell you offline about HR in a little bit. Okay. So moving on. Okay. So uh, I'm curious about this pendulum swing.
Yeah.
So temporary work was ish popular. And then, post 2020, man, it just exploded. Where are we at now as it stands, we're recording this in October 2025, like, what is that kind of that swing in that part of the industry?
So the results of our survey were significant. Obviously, we relied on our own ecosystem heavily, and we're a temporary staffing platform. So even though we reached out to places outside of our own ecosystem, 97% of our respondents had temped at least one time in their career. And what we're seeing is that there is an increase from our first survey to our second survey of people who are maintaining full-time positions or part-time positions at a at a home office, but temping part-time on the side. And I
Mhm.
mean, you mentioned it earlier, money is a big, big variable for a lot of people, but for some people, it's the difference between their kid being able to go to summer camp or them being able to go on a summer vacation or buying an important thing that they need for their house, certain things like that. So working an extra temp shift 1 to 2 times a week can be a huge financial impact for them, and because of how staffing platforms like GoTo and other solutions have created an on-demand opportunity for people to increase their income at their whim. They're not
Mhm.
maintaining some relationship that they have for a long-term stint at an office for maternity leave. They're able to just open their phone, pick up a shift, and then be able to earn that extra 500, $2,000 a month.
Now, are these people already working? Are they working 3 days a week? Are they working 4 days a week? Or are they working 5 days a week and finding a Saturday shift? Like, I'm trying to think, like, bandwidth wise, like, how do they find the ability to pick up all these shifts?
So what's interesting is last year, I'll give you guys a sneak peek. So last year we didn't break it up that way, but this year we broke it up in bands like 10 to 20 hours, 20 to 35, et cetera, et cetera. And what we're finding is that sweet spot. So it looks like people who work 3 to 4 days a week or the end part-time temp are the most common cohort so far. We haven't finished the survey, but just getting a little bit of a sneak peek. That's been a pretty significant group of our surveyed respondents.
Only here on Tele2 Hygienists hit the hard hitting journalism, as they call it in the industry. I want to talk about, you mentioned before, I mean, obviously pay. We talked about how important that is. Autonomy, you mentioned that kind of at the opening. When you're surveying everyone, was there one of those things or something you maybe different that just stood out among the group of what hygienists want to have changed in the profession?
Better pay was number 1, and I think that that's been consistent, and even though I think it's easy to, like, kinda reduce that or dilute it to be like, "Oh, all they care about is money," that's not at all how that's not at all the sentiment that I've gotten by doing the survey, now going on our 3rd year. It's about value. It's about respect, and it's about feeling valued at their office and feeling respected for the work that they do and the place that they play, for better patient care and proactive dental health. But second to better pay was stronger benefits and more flexibility. I think the stronger benefits kinda echoes that initial sentiment of, "If you valued me, you'd give me better benefits. You'd make sure that I, had the ability to have proper health insurance, proper vision insurance, dental insurance." One of the things that came up a lot was, like, CE reimbursement, equipment reimbursement, and just being able to have the support for the resources that they need to be able to show up every day and do their job properly. And then better flexibility was that third one. That's kind of where go-to hops in, giving the opportunity to work when you want, how you want, and for the rate you want, I think has been tremendous, creating that autonomy and being your own boss in a way and having the ability to make decisions for your career in such an empowered way.
Mhm. I feel like there's a lot more to your guys' study that we're not able to unfortunately get to on this episode. Do you have is it already published somewhere that someone can go find?
Yeah, we have it on our actual website, both reports that have been released so far. So I go to .com state hyphen of hyphen work.
And then but what if they wanted to participate in, like, the future survey? Could they is it open to anybody? Do you have to be a member? Where can they find that?
So this year is open to any dental hygienist, dental assistant, or associate dentist. We actually added associate dentist this year. And you can find the links for the survey at that same link. So go to .com/state hyphen of hyphen work. And we're doing a more intense giveaway this year. So 9 winners will be randomly selected. 1 will take home $1,000 cash, 3 will win $150, and 5 will win $50. And free digital planner for everyone who completes the survey. We had so much fun last year sending out the prizes to the winners. Like we did Amazon gift cards last year, got some feedback. This year it's cash, but we were like trying to create a bouquet of Amazon gift cards and make it really fun, which the winners were really excited, and it's always so cool to interact with our users in a meaningful way. But yeah, you'd be able to take the survey on that link as well.
You'll have the opportunity to just kind of put your heads down and just do just the actual work, but you guys choose to do more than that. Just speaking on behalf of the hygiene profession. Thank you so much for all the work that you guys put into this because while maybe you guys get a little bit of, tangential like benefit from it, like we get, I think the lion's share of the benefits. So I'm glad that you're all doing this for us. If someone had any questions though, suggestions, things that they wanted to maybe see on a survey, like how can they be in contact with somebody?
For sure. You'd be able to reach out to either me or Cassidy Miller, who's our director of advocacy and community. My email is talia@joingoto.com. Thalia. It's kind of hard to pronounce. No hard feelings. And Cassidy's is cassidy@joingoto.com as well. And just a genuine thank you. We don't want to just talk the talk. We want to walk the walk. We've employed these results into actual efforts that we've done at GoTo, including our Best in Dental recognition program and focusing on doing things that help hygienists feel more valued and more empowered. Um, we want to be able to show proof of concept for how we've taken these results and made real difference with them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. All right, listeners, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to reach out to all of our guests. Give us a follow on social media. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you have a minute, head over to our website and sign up for our newsletter. All right, we'll see you on the next one. This has been a production of Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B.